Good morning. Today I'm joined by Mr. Colin Mamdoo, and he is a smart SO partner at Vodacom. Good morning, Colin.
Hi, good morning, Dennis. Thanks for the coffee and yeah, thanks for having me on the platform.
You're welcome. So, Colin, you've asked to just make a disclaimer before you start talking quickly.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dennis. I just wanted to mention that obviously the views and opinions that I'm expressing here are that of my own and not of my organization.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Colin, one of the big reasons I wanted to talk to you this morning is really because in the last 20 years that I've been working in industry, I have had an experience that often I have to go to someone to get some technical detail, to get a fuller understanding of something. And very often this person turns out to not have completed an engineering degree. And I have learned that you really need to respect these people. So I want to ask you, the path that you've taken is very unique. Could you please tell us how you got into this discipline and bypassing a degree essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dennis. So yeah, I think I mentioned to you it's quite an interesting pathway. So initially, I did start out doing electronics engineering at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. At the time, it was Natal Durban. And got through to my second year, and yeah, I think my love interest sort of sprung up at that point in time. My then girlfriend basically was basically has left the country to do her medical degree, and I left to go with her. So I chased my love interest at the time. And then while so we were basically based in India, was where she ended up doing it. And I thought, well, what do I do with my time? So I thought I was very, very in tune with computers and specifically networking. And I started chasing a few credentials at the time. So there was the MCSE, which was the Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, and there was another Certified Novell Engineer path as well. So I joined a local college, started completing off the certifications, and I found that the pace at which it was being taught in class was a bit too slow for me. So I went ahead and just did it myself, and found that I completed a lot of these credentials within a fraction of the time, to a point where the college then asked me to teach it. So so not only did I get the opportunity of really completing these certifications, but I think a great opportunity for me was to start to lecture, these certifications at the time. And, maybe just fast forwarding that to a few years ahead, I started to gain a lot of experience from an IT perspective, a lot of experience from a networking perspective. Came back to South Africa, joined a few consulting companies. And sure, I think, I've covered the entire sort of IT space. And then, however, the fact that I had exposure to engineering at very early on, my love for electronics, still sort of stuck around. I don't know if you can see somewhere up there in the corner, right? It's something very familiar, and I still continue to tinker with it. I still keep up with the latest, from whether it's Arduino or Raspberry Pis, and even down to component level, So I think for me, that's a love that never really died away or disappeared. It's always been a part of me. And I think all of these experiences combined, and at the time when I was sort of looking to sort of move into Vodacom, they were looking for a principal specialist in IoT. And I think I sort of then ticked all the boxes in terms of the knowledge behind it, in terms of the experience behind it. And they said, sure, it's a startup type division. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. So I think, it's already been now about 3 to 4 years with the company. And then, of course, over time, I now have moved slightly out of IoT, but more into the digital transformation space. And here I start to find that I'm needing a new bag of tricks, things like methodologies and frameworks related to the management consulting type space. And I think, to sort of better bolster that capability, I've started off my MBA, and that should be complete by June already. And wow, I think, it's giving me the right tools necessary to tackle the the statements behind it.
Fantastic. So just give me a brief overview of what is a smart SO, please. What does that even mean?
Sure. So smart SO is basically something that we call a smart service offering. I think you as well as your listeners would agree that we're living in an age now where collaboration is definitely here to stay. You're finding that companies are realizing that when you look at a value chain end to end, they have specific core competencies. And they don't necessarily have the little bits and pieces in between. And what they typically do is they look to dovetail with other companies out there in the market. In some cases, it might even be their competition. However, where they do actually find the right combination and they're able to solve customer problems effectively.
I can see. Yeah, I can see that a multidisciplinary team would be very beneficial in that case. And I can also see whether your IT background is really overlapping with some of the technology stuff. And if you just add business to the mix, then you've got a very fortuitous opportunity in front of you. Could you tell me, Colin, so this is, obviously we're trying to get students engaged in engineering. We want to pull students into engineering and studying a degree. And let me be the first to say that even a degree has its limitations. But if you could tell us, in your last few years in industry, especially given the dreams that you had before you left for India, what are the main things that you missed, that you found you kind of hit a glass ceiling, if that's the appropriate term, because of not having a degree behind your name?
That's a very, very key question. I think for me, I probably had an engineering mindset, and I think every engineer is by nature a problem solver, right? You encounter hurdles and you figure out a way around it ultimately. I think what having a formalized degree or formalized education at the very outset gives you is sort of a discipline around how to solve various different problems. It gives you a methodological framework to work against, etc. So very similarly, as I mentioned, particularly from an MBA perspective, I've always tinkered around with the idea as to, would it really bring me value? And I have to admit, for the longest time, I said, look, I don't think it could necessarily bring me, any particular value, particularly since I have access to YouTube, right, and the internet and Google. However, having gone through the program, I would absolutely be the first to tell you that what a formalized education would do for you is consolidate and collate your thoughts in a structured direction, just like a vector, magnitude and in a particular direction. And I think, we all sort of need that in whatever disciplines we follow. And having a formalized degree allows you, it creates the right platform. It gives you the right direction to sort of follow. And it also gives you the capability of assimilating all of the information out there. I think the one thing that you'd find is that there's really tons and tons of information out there, even if it's on YouTube or Google, but you do require some sort of basic skeleton against which to properly consolidate all of the information.
That's a very good point, actually. The curriculum fills up all the possible gaps. It's really difficult to do that on your own. I appreciate that. And respect to you for getting most of those gaps filled, and even all of those gaps filled in your career. So yeah, congratulations. I'm envious of the way that you've done it. Colin, could you? I think actually, could you just tell me real quick, what are the main skills that you see being needed in industry for the next few years? What do you think people need to focus on, and where do you think the job opportunities in South Africa lie?
Wow, that's fantastic. Look, I think we're everything we're doing currently, whether it is learning or whether it is the job situation or businesses out there, I think we're on a very steep slope of an exponential curve, right? So everything is happening very, very, very quick. So what it requires is first and foremost, I'm always approached by a lot of youngsters saying, hey, how do I decide on what I need to do? How do I get into this industry and how do I find new job opportunities? And the first thing I do tell them is go get yourself a degree, right? And don't, and more importantly, don't spend too much of time trying to figure out what it is you want to study. But other than the fact that just go ahead and complete a degree. And I think the reason why that is important, basic skills that you require to succeed today, is the ability to learn quickly, right? And I think that's exactly what a formalized degree is going to create. The discipline within you is to say, well, how do I learn these various different subjects and apply them, etc. So there are new subjects constantly evolving and popping up there. I think you're very familiar with the likes of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and more especially you're trying to keep in touch with what some of the entrepreneurs are busy with like Elon Musk, SpaceX, for example, Starlink, right? And the things that people ask, what's he trying to do with covering the earth with these thousands of satellites and giving us internet capabilities? And I said, well, if you look at his broader play, right, he's really trying to build an interplanetary communication system. Is that he wants to communicate when he sends people off into Mars, he wants to provide communication back to Earth. And the way that he's going to do that is by shooting a whole bunch of satellites around Mars. So basically him sort of shooting that around the Earth gives him a capability of testing it and then sort of developing it and then pushing it out. And I think the point I want to make there is that that's something very new. It's new territory. It's pioneering. And this is exactly why we need engineers. We need engineers to basically have access to a set of tools, right? And also have the ability to create new tools that they don't have, that nobody else has ever used in the past. And more importantly, to, using a famous Star Trek analogy, boldly go where no one has gone before, right? And have the capability to succeed in that environment. So I think, first and foremost, have the ability to learn and learn to learn quick, because you're constantly going to be learning a whole bunch of new things. Number two, when you're selecting your degree, I understand that you represent the engineering school, Tinus, but I would say if you're struggling to make a decision on what discipline to follow, don't worry too much about it. Chances are that you may not even be practicing what you studied. And to be quite honest, I've got quite a few colleagues who are engineers that are really not, applying their minds from an engineering perspective, right? And then I think the third thing that I'd advise people out there is that always be curious to learn, constant and spend at least 3 to 4 hours per week where you're constantly researching new concepts, new ideas. Stay very close to what the entrepreneurs are doing out there and what they're playing in, because the world is rapidly changing.
That's very good advice. Colin, thank you so much. This has been a very useful interview. I think even more so than you would appreciate at this stage, because I think you bring a very unique context and perspective. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dennis. Take care.